Hi, CJ here for another video of passionate sharing about recovery tools, lessons, and real life experiences from my mental health journey. I am not a medical or mental health professional, just here today to share more helpful information about my journey. Just a reminder, if you've not yet created your personal safety plan, please check out the link in the description to learn more about staying safe, because emotional triggers or darkness of depression can set in at any time and potentially during this video. Okay, let's get started. And remember, you are not alone. Hi, CJ here. Hey, today we're going to be talking about EMDR. And I'm going to try to help explain what it is and why it's needed. This is my personal view and experiences. Everyone's will be unique, and many of you actually may have it easier using this technique than what I'm going to talk about today. And my therapist is a strong believer of using EMDR therapy, but she has also used many other techniques with me. The others each had positive impact, and some were actually really noticeable. But their primary purpose was being used to augment my ability to be able to continue the work with emotional processing using EMDR. This discussion is from a patient point of view, and the therapists actually go through specialized training before they utilize this technique. It can be extremely harmful to attempt to do this technique by using some of the options available from the internet for self-EMDR. Please remember, EMDR is used to process past emotions and their negative beliefs about our past and in our past, and they are very powerful. If these are not handled by a trained professional, you're putting yourself in a position of potential self-harm. EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. The main goal of EMDR is to change the negative beliefs and suffering stemming from the past events, thoughts, feelings, and body symptoms into memories that result in less or no suffering. One would think the E would actually stand for emotional or emotions, but the E is for eye movement, which is one of the components that makes the technique work. Dr. Francine Shapiro developed this method in 1987 after she noticed she had improved moods when she was looking back and forth, left then right, left then right. The theory is that the eye movement allows access to the brain like what occurs in REM sleep. And this is actually fairly new. 1987 it was first talked about. My therapist used a wand, a metal wand with a red ball, when we were working in the office. And now, during COVID, via video appointments, just her finger to have me follow with her eyes. Just her finger going back and forth. She moved the wand from left to right, and I follow with my eyes from left to right. We have sometimes used just patting, first on the left leg, then the right leg, then the left leg, then the right leg. But eye movement definitely works best for me. This component is just one piece of the whole technique. The goal is to keep me present by following the motion, left then right, engaging both hemispheres of the brain, and then we start the work. The work on the EMDR session cannot begin without setup. Before you begin EMDR, the therapist does have to obtain some background and determine negative beliefs and events from the past that should be first focused on. This will be, traditional therapy discussion. During the initial stages with your therapist, you will learn about SUDS. This is subjective units of distress scale. These are levels that your therapist will ask you to rate your discomfort and what you're presently feeling when you're talking about the events, and potentially a particular emotion or belief. At first, this is kind of difficult, as you have to learn mindfulness to be able to tune in to your body, the emotions, and through these EMDR sessions, this will become very natural. In each session, we do a short setup to focus on a target event. Identify the feelings I have in my body, name the emotion that I am feeling, then define the SUDS. Desensitization is about being able to think about memories of the past event and not have feelings in the body or emotions creating distress. You reach a SUDS level of 0. The work for desensitization can occur in just a few minutes on a memory, or it can take several sessions or even months, depending on the complex nature of the emotions that could be intertwined in complex PTSD. When I first learned about EMDR, I thought it would somehow be a desensitization of my past. Well, actually, that is so wrong. It's just not the case. You will still have your memories of all of the traumas. It does not erase anything. But when you think of that memory, the emotional pain in your body is not provoked. The cycle of thoughts, body sensations, and emotions, they just don't start up. You just have the memory, and you know that memory was terrible, but it doesn't provoke all the things that go on in your body. I'll be talking about this in a little bit. The memories of the experience are not the problem. It is the unprocessed emotions within the memories that are. Let me say this again. The memories of the experience are not the problem. It is the unprocessed, the stuffed emotions within the memories that are. You know, when I really learned that the memories of the past were not the problem, but it was those unprocessed, stuffed emotions, it was kind of a huge aha moment for me about this technique. And actually, just thinking of a past event, I have current, right now, changes occurring in my body and in my emotions and feelings. The event is in the past, but the feelings, what's going on in my body, are in the present, about the past. This is what I have learned is similar to being triggered. You might hear that term a lot. Something happens in the present, and emotions from the past are invoked. Then the brain and the body and our thoughts start the cycle. I have a video that talks about this cycle a lot. Check out the link. The event that just happened in the present brings up much more than it should. It wasn't that big of a deal. How many times have you actually said, why am I so upset? Why did this hurt me so much? This is how we can actually go from a simple statement of, let me take care of it. I feel hurt. Then I become sad, worthless, hopeless, and even just wanting to give it all up. And this can all happen in just a matter of seconds. Again, this is why we should only do EMDR with our therapist, as it can be unsafe as thoughts very quickly, and we can be triggered very easily into having these memories open and processing them and not knowing how to handle it. Yes, I do speak about this from experience. This is also why a personal safety plan is so important to have in place. Please check it out down in the details below. So back to the EMDR desensitization stage. When the therapist helping with the setup, the process will, begin by first defining the SUDS, the level I'm experiencing. Then I will follow the wand or the finger with my eyes going left, then right, following the finger. And I will be focusing on the feelings in my body, the emotion that I'm feeling, and the thoughts of that target past event. There's no talking during this part, just focusing left to right and focusing on you and only your thoughts and your body sensations and the emotions that you are feeling. While doing this, you're just going to let your emotions be felt and expressed. You're in a safe, supporting environment. And again, at first it may be very difficult to allow yourself to just feel, but that is so important in EMDR. After just a few minutes, the therapist will stop the wand or the finger and will ask what came up, what is being felt, and the SUDS level will be checked often. Some discussion may occur here for clarification, and then the therapist will provide brief instructions for what you should focus on, and eye movement begins again. During the appointment, you may have many EMDR processing sessions. I use the term processing session for what occurs between the therapist focus setup and when the therapist says, what came up? So while you're quiet, that's the processing session. During a processing session, so much can occur, and it will occur so fast. This is actually the magic of EMDR and where the real work is done. For this work, you must be willing to be mindful of your thoughts, body sensations, and emotions that are being felt. Again, that triangle. For me, when starting therapy in late 2017, we started having processing sessions for the elevator accident. During these sessions, I was having many thoughts and memories from my past, memories that I had lost in my conscience, but with processing body sensations and feelings, all of a sudden I would have a flowing memory come through that I had forgotten or did not remember at all. Oftentimes, it would start from just a piece of memory that made no sense. Everything is important during these processing sessions. That little thought, your feelings, what are you feeling in your body? You really need to stay in tune with it, and everything is important. Please note, EMDR can work very quickly on memories and issues. But when I was starting this process at 59 and thinking I had had a very happy childhood and a blessed life, and I actually uncovered there was a lot of past traumas, and would spend a few appointments on many of these to just start the desensitization process. So just let me give you a couple examples to help out with this. One of the first memories that I had that made no sense at all, just was a memory, an iron hitting a wall. That's all I had, an iron hitting a wall. And in that appointment, while we were doing other processing, my earlobe started to really sting. I thought this was strange, so I mentioned it to the therapist. We focused on this in several processing sessions, and then I recalled my mother backhanding me, and I would turn away and my ear would get struck. Natural instinct, you turn when you're going to get slapped. So the EMDR was grabbing a memory, don't know what yet, iron hitting a wall and earlobe hurting. And this was actually in several appointments. Then in another session, while deep in the processing session, my shoulder just really began to ache. My right shoulder really began to ache. Again, processing of this, along with whatever memory we were processing at the time, and what emotions I had, we uncovered all kinds of memories of wrongdoings that I suffered as something of, I'm a bad girl again, or I'm just a burden on my parents. So the thoughts, the beliefs were being brought out. The shoulder was being brought out. Different memories were being discussed. A lot going on. Again, complex PTSD, didn't know what emotions felt like yet, and we're still early on in 2017-18. We'll get back to this memories in just a minute. But what is going on in each processing session, from what I understand, when a trauma occurs, and there are many emotions going on during that trauma, we may not know how to handle or process all those emotions, especially as young children. The memories and the emotions become fragmented in our brain, and then we're not able to correctly file them away. Filing away of memories typically occurs every night in our sleep. But when the memory and the emotions are not together, they've been fragmented, the normal filing of these together for that day's event can't occur. Not knowing what to do with the emotions, we typically will stuff them away. We'll ignore them or cover them up with some type of coping skill. I was a thinker. I just would find the positive and only focus on the positive. That was my coping skill, and cover everything up. EMDR and processing sessions pull everything together again. And then the trauma memory with the emotion and the feelings can be filed correctly. Our brains, they're just amazing, complex organ within us. And those thoughts have been opened up in the EMDR session, may continue without us even being aware. You may be really tired. It may be really hard to stop being sad and crying after an EMDR session. This is very normal and actually good because we're still processing. And somewhere in the next few days, some of that memory will get filed correctly. I actually have a lot of processing continue in my dreams. I've been able to see it happening, and sometime in the future, I'll talk about that. So make sure and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to receive alerts when new learning sessions are shared. Well, now let's put it all together. All the small pieces that were revealed a little at a time. Again, with complex PTSD, it may take time. But the iron hitting the wall, the earlobe, the shoulder, the upper chest tightness, the stomach pains, the headaches, me feeling like a burden, like I was never good enough, that I wasn't wanted. I was feeling sad, angry, like I always had to make sure mom wouldn't get upset or mad to feel safe. And eventually, along with other traumas, this trauma became fully uncovered, and the full memory, the feelings, the emotions about a very traumatic day when I was 4 was uncovered and processed. EMDR processing sessions focused on the fear of the iron being thrown at the wall and the anxiety that I was feeling in my upper chest. Well, I was eventually able to recall all the details of that day when Mom was very upset and crying while ironing. I was trying to ensure that my sister did not cry. Well, then she did. Mom got very mad. She threw the iron at the wall just above my head, yelling, "I told you girls to be quiet." When I asked why I made my sister cry, I was telling her about it when I got brutally backhanded. And then she picked me up by the shoulder and threw me outside with my sister just following along behind me, being told, "I can't deal with you." Don't have a lot of memories yet of what happened outside. But then when Dad got home, he was mad that he had to deal with the punishing. He didn't want to deal with it. He was mad, and then I received a belting that ended up being across my back, being told the whole time to quit yelling, quit crying. You have to learn to not make your sister cry. I was 4. She pulled my hair. I slapped her hand away. This is just one trauma of many others up to this point that led me to bury all my emotions of this 4-year-old event until EMDR. And just so you know, I know the belting was across my back from feeling the pain. The pain came first, then the memory across my back. Sometimes you have to just feel this pain. Allow yourself, it's short-lived, but allow yourself to feel that pain to get to the memories. Well, several months later, after many traumas were uncovered throughout my life, remember, we were back processing the elevator accident, the reason I went to therapy. We created a list of everything that had been found at this point that would need some target focus. And then we moved from the elevator accident to the emotions needing processed about not being even wanted at birth. EMDR will typically start with the PTSD event that led you to therapy. But then if it becomes complex, and many times if you have PTSD, it certainly will, the first trauma will need to be processed before you can fully process the last one. So at some point, we will go back and be able to fully process what took me to therapy, which was the elevator accident. After we performed EMDR sessions for memories and traumas from my birth, we proceeded and then often had to go back when a new emotion was uncovered. Remember, I had to literally learn what emotions felt like, pleasant and unpleasant ones. They would be uncovered and no longer stuffed. We would go back and desensitize that emotion from earlier traumas and then proceed and then go back until all emotions were found and desensitized. Again, in learning the emotions, I'd move forward and then we go back. So birth, 1, 2, 3. During 4, some things really came up and we had to go back again. So it did take a long time to get to this memory of 4 that I fully defined that happened at 4. Well, it wasn't that long ago that we finished the full processing of the iron hitting the wall memory that I just shared with you. And right now, currently in my journey, we're working on another significant trauma from when I was 5. It seems to have some real complexity to it, or just the fact that we have more memories from when we're 5 than when we're 4 or earlier. During the work of this trauma, I ended up bringing a completely unrelated adult memory that I honestly just pushed so deep inside that it was gone. It stayed hidden until now, 25 years later. Let me just say, I now understand why it can take women so long to speak up about their sexual violations. So when this came up, this trauma had to be at least partially processed so we could go back and work at the trauma that we were working on at 5. Then when we started to work on this memory, this trauma when I was 5, news of a loss of a brief acquaintance turned me into an emotional mess. Suicide just turned me into an emotional mess. When the emotions for a current event are more than one would expect to occur, you're likely being triggered from the past. That's what's occurring and what's going on. It was a very brief acquaintance. I was more of an emotional mess than when my mother passed away. That didn't seem right. We did some partial processing again on this current event. Obviously, it was very disturbing. And again, much of the emotions about the current event were from my past traumas, and when I was processing what I was feeling, I was remembering the event from when I was 5. The EMDR for PTSD, and especially complex PTSD, it is common for what is the target processing may evoke other events. So it's common that you're having to move around, and that's what makes it so complex. Each event and new triggering, each are dealt with. So in my case, that's why it's taken several years just to get from birth to 5, when starting at the beginning and moving forward. I share this with you because while I was out on the internet, I heard how fast it was. You could be out of pain in 2 or 3 sessions, 2 or 3 appointments. Well, what's wrong with me? I got discouraged. I was wondering why it wasn't fast for me. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I just do it right and get rid of all these past memories and just put them away in the current way? Well, EMDR, as any therapy, is going to be a unique experience for everyone. I've had the experience of going from SUDS level 7 to 1 or 2 in just a matter of 2 or 3 processing sessions. And believe me, it is so magical. EMDR is incredibly magical. When the more complex ones take the time, the magic is the same. When that 4 was processed, it was incredible. So remembering back to when the memory first started to after it processes, after that reprocessing, it's just amazing. Above, I used the term fully processed. For me, that means that we have finished the desensitization of the EMDR process. Meaning, I was able to focus on that trauma, that focused trauma, and my SUDS was 0. Once this occurs, reprocessing begins. For reprocessing, my therapist will ask me to think about how I would like the event to be rewritten. Not that it changes it or the memory, but think about it differently. In this process, instead of feeling the emotions just desensitized, you actually feel the emotions that are more pleasant. So using the example for the iron throwing incident, my rewrite started with the fact that my sister pulled my hair. And my mother was attentive to what was going on and came to sit with my sister. She states to me, "Honey, did that hurt?" And I said, "Yes, Mommy." She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you," and rubbed my head. Then she gently reminded my sister that when she is upset about something, she can be upset. It's okay to feel that way, but she can't hurt others. She then, my mother, walks us outside and plays with us. And then with this rewrite, this beautiful memory or story, we do a complete EMDR processing session on the rewrite. Eyes focus on the body sensations about the rewrite. And after we've done a couple of processing sessions, she'll ask me to do a complete body scan and see if there's any body sensations that are still lingering. If anything is still there, then we'll go back to EMDR desensitization processing until those body sensations are gone. 0, SUDS level 0. Then, in the next appointment, we will come back to that target memory, the iron throwing incident, and do a body scan again and ensure that nothing is lingering and that still needs processed, the 0. That is when you have completed that memory in reprocessing. In this stage, it is crucial that you be honest with yourself. You just want to be to 0, but be honest to yourself and your therapist. You cannot just want your body sensations to be gone. If you have anything, you need to discuss it, and it will only be a stuffed emotion that'll come back in a triggering event again if you don't take care of it now. But for me, I would not even feel some part of the emotions from the event until that emotion would be revealed and learned from another trauma. That is why, while I'm still learning to feel emotions, we had to go back to the beginning several times and ensure the newly learned emotion was looked for, felt, and desensitized and reprocessed for each of those earlier traumas. This is when I get reminded, this is complex, and I do everything I can to be gracious with myself and not getting mad for not doing it right the first time. Part of my beliefs, I can't do anything right. So of course, while I'm doing EMDR, that can come up often because this is complex. So in summary, whether it takes one appointment or years of appointments, EMDR is an amazing therapy method that was not even around the first time I had extensive therapy back in the Army and college when I was suicidal, when I had many suicide attempts. I think it is so amazing that new methods and tools are continually being developed to help us become mentally healthier and not be trapped or limited with our stuffed emotions. If you're not currently using EMDR with your therapist, I highly recommend finding one that is EMDR certified and has experience in trauma processing. And remember, you are not alone.